TC, transitioning to retirement, one of the most important financial decisions of your life. Are you transitioning toward retirement yet?
I am not quite there. Obviously, it's on my mind.
What do you mean quite there?
Well,
you shall retire when I tell you to retire.
Oh, okay. So I'm not going to retire tomorrow, but I obviously it's on, at our age, it has to be on your mind.
What?
Okay, forget it. I'll work for the rest of my life.
Exactly. That is the right answer. But for everyone else, call Steve Cordasco. For everyone else, call Steve Cordasco, John Walker, and the Cordasco team at Mercer Advisors and let them guide you through the important transition in your life and create a tailored financial plan so that you can enjoy your retirement with the comfort and confidence that your hard-earned savings can provide. Don't make the mistake of letting it dictate the terms for you. You plan your retirement. 855-558-3500. Schedule a free consultation. The Cordasco Financial Network, that's a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Andrew Garrett, Inc., which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences will vary, and successful outcomes are not guaranteed. Steve's a good guy, so call him. Headlines now from Smerconish.com, the newsletter. Well, here's the Monday poll question. The Monday poll question at Smerconish.com. Do the advantages of the vetting done by Iowa and New Hampshire voters outweigh the state's lack of diversity? I had David Axelrod on CNN with me on Saturday. Perfect person with whom to speak about this issue because, of course, David ran Obama's efforts and was a senior advisor when he was in the White House with President Obama. Barack Obama in 2008 won the Iowa caucus. And in so doing, dispelled a lot of concerns, a lot of negativity in terms of, he's a talented guy, but are white voters really going to vote for him? Well, he wins Iowa, and it put him on a trajectory to win the nomination and to win the White House. So David had some interesting reactions when we talked about it. The question that I asked him was, who's going to do the vetting? And that's exactly what I'm getting at in today's poll question, because, yes, Iowa and New Hampshire might be lily white, especially in comparison to the Democratic Party generally, but there's that Bob Graham quote where he said that, he met more than one person during the course of running for president who said, I really like you and I'm not sure if I can vote for you because I've only met you once. Because if you're an Iowa caucus goer, if you are a New Hampshire voter and you want to see the candidates on multiple occasions in intimate settings, you get to do that. And many don't survive. In fact, Graham's campaign didn't survive the gauntlet of that very close and personal inspection. So you're giving that up if you get away from Iowa and New Hampshire and don't replace it with another small state that will provide a similar level of scrutiny. But if you're going to South Carolina, big state, diverse state, it's going to be a TV market kind of thing. So that's what I'm asking. Do the advantages of vetting done by Iowa and New Hampshire voters outweigh the lack of diversity in those states? David Axelrod's observation with me on Saturday not only was to talk about the vetting, but also to say he thinks this is a sign that President Biden is running. David Axelrod said that the Democrats moving the 2024 primary, the first in the nation, from Iowa to South Carolina shows Biden's intention to run. Quote, I think the message here is that if you're an insurgent and thinking of challenging the president, forget about it because that's not going to be an opportunity. There won't be an opportunity to do that here. So as we talked about here on Friday, Kamala Harris probably an ultimate beneficiary of giving more power to South Carolina, given the composition of South Carolina, than Iowa or New Hampshire. And maybe Secretary Pete comes out on the short end of the stick because he didn't fare so well in South Carolina. And if they get more of a say sooner, and if it's Harris and Buttigieg, maybe it's to her benefit and not to his. Although I have to say, a good observation that I read over the weekend, and not my own, I wish I could tell you where I read it because then I could give more proper credit. But it was the observation that Iowa and New Hampshire really don't pick Republican and Democratic nominees, but they winnow the field. Like, they can't ultimately determine if you're going to be the man or the woman who gets the nomination, but they can sink your fortunes. How about this statistic? From Wikipedia, so it must be true. The Iowa caucuses, 55% of the time a predictor of who gets the Democratic nomination, 43% of the time correctly, 43, less than 50% of the time, correctly select the Republican nominee. So, big story from the weekend, this Twitter Musk Matt Taibbi dump relative to what went on with the Hunter laptop and the campaign generally in 2020. It broke Friday night at a time when my CNN program was totally put to bed.
It has actually, that hasn't happened in a while.
No,
it really hasn't. And I did not, I must say, sort of looking at this last weekend, I did not expect that. I thought it was like done. And there you go.
So Musk said earlier on, I think he said initially like 4 or 5 p.m. he was going to start the process, but it didn't really roll out until 7 p.m.
I was going to say it was around dinner time, yeah.
And so then the question became, okay, how am I going to handle this on CNN? And as I told you, I definitely wanted to do it.
Right.
I wanted to do it. As far as I know, it hadn't been covered on CNN's airwaves.
Right.
It was posted. It was posted by Saturday morning at CNN.com. But as far as I know, it hadn't been touched in the evening nor through the morning newscast until I came on the air at 9 a.m.
Yeah, I don't think it had. I was getting a lot of tweets saying that Fox was talking about how it wasn't covered on CNN.
Well, they wanted that to be the case.
Right. And prior to you. And then I also got tweets after you addressed it saying, wow, I flipped over to CNN thinking I was going to get crickets. And instead, Smerconish was talking about it. Shock.
Led with it.
Yeah.
Led with it. This morning I'm driving in and I'm spinning the dial and listening to Julie and of course getting all the headlines from CNN and Fox and MSN. And I was not surprised to hear on Fox this morning them saying, well, the Sunday morning shows a combined total of 7 seconds devoted to the Hunter laptop and Twitter.
They should have talked about the Saturday morning shows.
But that was part of my motivation. Part of my motivation was I didn't want to give them the tools to say, well, they won't even talk about it. I want to talk about it.
But
I love the story.
But you're not a Johnny come lately on this.
No.
You've been talking about it this whole time. So yeah.
And
it was natural this was a natural for you.
My God.
Elon Musk and the whole thing.
When I went on Saturday and David Handelman wrote, he's David, he works with us at CNN, but he did a really nice job of being very down the middle, straightforward, just like tell us what's going
the data.
on.
Right.
And so I ended up saying on CNN on Saturday morning, this is either a thunderclap or it's a snooze fest, depending on the media outlet where you go.
Correct.
And then I had Jed Rubenfeld, who's a First Amendment law professor at Yale, on with me to talk about it.
Right.
I think it's a story, even if there's not a smoking gun. The bottom line, from my perspective, is that Twitter initially treated the Hunter laptop story as a hack and therefore something not to be spread, and continue to have that posture even when they knew it was not a hack.
Right.
And my view, I may be wrong, but I'm consistent, is that the media generally should have handled this story and should not have ignored it. And the best comment of all about this came from a Democratic congressman in his communications to Twitter. We didn't know this at the time. This was a really big revelation. Representative Ro Khanna, who is a leader of the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives, Democratic Progressive Caucus, a native Bucks Countyan, interestingly. Ro Khanna, comes from that same Pennsbury High School as Robert Costa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're both in the Pennsbury Hall of Fame.
Of course they are, as well they should be.
So he reached out to a top Twitter executive with concerns that the decision to block the story violated First Amendment principles. And, okay, it's not a First Amendment issue, as we've talked here constantly,
Right.
because they're a private actor and so forth. But Ro Khanna ended up saying to Twitter, this now is more a story of censorship than it otherwise would be. And I think he nailed it. Okay, meanwhile, you've got the Trump response. So, Donald Trump, I'm sure not waiting for any of what the substance really reveals, wanted to get in on this action. Donald Trump has so few tricks in his bag, and that has served him well. And he may not need a lot of tricks in his bag. But
rinse, repeat, wash.
It's the same old grievances. Yeah. It is, Festivus constantly, 365 days a year.
Always.
He will not give up on the narrative because the worst thing for him is to be perceived as a loser or a pauper. He just will not give up on the narrative that the 2020 election was stolen. And so to him, the Musk, Biden laptops is just evidence of him having been the victim of theft. So consequently, via Truth Social, by the way, interesting, even though he's been welcomed back to Twitter, still hasn't used it. Right?
Isn't that a business decision, though?
Total business decision, but nevertheless notable.
It's got to be tempting.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, especially in this case.
Yeah.
So here's what Trump says. Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful, all caps, rightful winner?
Oh, jeez.
Or do you have a new election, a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution? He then accused big tech of working closely with the Democrats. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. Okay, saying in part, like the Constitution even needs to be put aside because of the massive fraud that was committed in this case, notwithstanding that he's made zero showing since the election of any fraud, and every one of his court challenges was unsuccessful. Every one of his court challenges, Democratic, Republican, some of them appointed by him, judges, uniformly casting it aside. Now putting, Republicans in an awkward position in terms of who's going to call this out. And so, of course, microphones are being placed, and I think appropriately so, in front of Republican representatives being asked now, well, what do you make of what Donald Trump had to say that he wants the Constitution thrown out to overturn the 2020 election? Is any of that going to matter? Well, on Fox, when I was listening to TC, they were not talking about Trump saying the Constitution ought to be thrown out. Instead, they were talking about the 7 seconds that was committed to Hunter Biden. I am talking about both of these things.
Exactly, you are.
I want you to hear everything.
Thank you. No, thank you.
So there you go. Friday poll result. Friday poll result here at Smerconish.com, 15,487. Do you think the Idaho police have a suspect in the quadruple murders or are nowhere near solving the crime? 74.51%, let's say 3/4, say they're nowhere near solving it. I hope that's not true. The father of one of the victims said in an interview over the weekend that he thinks that his daughter or her best friend were targeted by the killer. This is the dad of Kaylee Goncalves.
Why does he think that? That's awful.
Because they were on the 3rd floor, and the killer presumably entered on the 1st. Stephen Goncalves said common sense and logic suggests that either of the pair was the intended victim because they were killed in a bed on the 3rd floor of the home when police have said the suspect entered the home through a backslider on the 2nd floor. I guess the two sleeping on the 1st floor are the ones who survived.
Oh my gosh, I can't even.
Yeah.
Oh, that poor father. I just can't.
Over the weekend, Saturday afternoon, the Moscow police in Idaho, at this time, no suspect has been identified.
That's terrifying.
At this time, no suspect has been identified.
So someone is out there that killed 4 people in cold blood with a knife out there.
It just seems impossible. Like the more time that goes off the clock, the less likely it is that this thing is going to get...
no, it'll get solved eventually. No question.
You still think so?
Zero question in my mind. You cannot get away with something in this day and age with forensics testing, cameras, et cetera. You cannot.
Tomorrow, the runoff in Georgia, not what it would have been if entire control of the Senate were on the line.
Yes.
There's a consensus among the pundit class, based on data, based on the polling data, that it's Raphael Warnock's race to lose. Of course, there was a consensus that Republicans were going to smoke Democrats in the midterm election and maybe retake control of the Senate as well as the House. That didn't pan out. So take it all with a grain of salt. But, you had 200,000 individuals Republicans vote for Brian Kemp, who did not vote for Herschel Walker. I shouldn't say all Republicans. The margin between the two was pretty significant. Now you don't have Kemp running. The thought is that it's Warnock's advantage because even though Kemp ran so far ahead of Herschel Walker, you don't have Kemp bringing out Republicans to vote for him in a race against Stacey Abrams. Did I say that correctly? I think that I did. So the belief is that Herschel Walker is trailing. And he's, continued to make more faux pas, although who knows if any of that matters. Another woman has come forth, and she's got a long diary of what went on, yada, yada, yada. We will see. Paul Pelosi attending the Kennedy Center honors in his first public appearance since that home attack. I noticed that he was wearing a hat.
Oh.
They said that he was hit in the head with that.
Oh, interesting.
With a hammer.
Yeah,
I hope he's okay.
But it must be, because one doesn't wear a hat to something like that.
Right.
Usually, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Hope the guy's all right.
Of course.
Hey, by the way, you know what story is out there that I think is really sad and being shown on some of the cable outlets in video? It's an 83-year-old guy at a Home Depot.
Oh, no.
83-year-old guy.
Like the greeter, or what? Like the guy at the door?
Kind of in that role, except he's at the exit.
Checking the receipts or something?
Yes.
Whew.
So a guy comes with a shopping cart and just like blows right by him, makes contact with the old timer who goes down, hits his head. It's been a couple of weeks, but he's now dead as a result of those injuries.
He died.
And it reminds me, because I told you that story about how when one of our sons worked for a summer, and I said big box store, it was Home Depot.
Right.
And he was waiting on a guy, and a guy comes in and totally flim-flammed him on a generator and just literally carried the generator out. And they were trained not to stand in the way for exactly this kind of a reason. This is exactly why the employees are told, we don't want you intervening.
Right. That's crazy. And that poor guy. Oh.
Terrible. Other crime news. How about the cowards in your home state of North Carolina? What they do? Shoot guns at a power grid?
In the question is, to what end? What are they trying to do? Are they just trying to make mischief? Not mischief. Are they trying to make chaos? Or is there something specific that they have in mind? Because evidently the whole Moore County is all shut down till Thursday. They're not going to be able to get power up till Thursday. Crazy.
Had that not been anticipated? I mean, what level of protection?
Right. Oh, interesting.
And somebody, I think, needed to be pretty sophisticated.
They said they knew from what I've read, it sounded like whoever did the shooting knew exactly what they were doing. So in other words, it wasn't like they were shooting at random and just happened to get lucky and turn off the generator. But no, they knew what they were shooting at. Sort of the way you could shoot at a television and turn off the lights, that kind of thing.
So the power outage is North Carolina.
Right.
The Home Depot worker,
that
was North Carolina as well.
Oh, no.
In Florida at a Walmart, here's somewhat better news. It was apparently Shop with a Cop Day.
Right.
And somebody goes in and to rip off that particular Walmart.
Not the right day.
No.
Not the right day. What was
time
there,
and a
something like
place.
40 deputies in the store at the time?
Time and a place, time and a place, time and a place.
Come on.
How about this one? My trash-centric focus.
Oh, yes.
So Palo Alto, California,
sure,
wanted to know, where does our recycling go?
Kind of a legit question, right?
I was laboring under the belief that when you recycle, the township is getting some cents back and making money and blah, blah. None of that is true.
None of that.
None of that is true.
No, where's it going?
Okay, in this case, the city's investigation reveals that 40% of its recyclable material stays in North America, where it's supposed to be processed according to a strict environmental and labor standard. The other roughly 60% goes abroad, mainly to Asia, with next to no transparency about its fate.
So, goes abroad, what? Like just in a ship? What? I don't even understand this.
Yeah.
But
they are
what do they
shipping.
do with it there?
Oh, nobody knows. Nothing good.
But
They're putting it in your sneakers
are they being
and your
paid
iPad.
for it? Like what's? What's the deal here?
The dealio is, and I want to drill down on this.
Yeah, we got to do a segment on this.
We've done it, but not in a while.
What is the question? Where does your recycling go?
Yeah, where does your recycling go? I would love to. Hey, what if I put one of my Apple tags in my recycling?
That means that you're done with it.
So what? It's a lab experiment.
How much is an Apple tag? I feel like
it'd be worth it.
Okay.
What do you think of this?
I think it's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah.
In like a plastic bottle or something?
Yeah, just throw it on it. But does it get crushed at some point?
I don't know.
Well, then we'll know.
Would we know if it were on a boat to China?
Sailed away to China in a little rowboat to find you?
Yeah. I will do it.
Okay.
I will do it. I will cover the cost.
Okay. I like this.
Just to see where does it end up.
That's a great idea.
I'm trying to think. This weekend is a commingle.
Slide it in the cardboard?
This weekend, no, this is not a cardboard week.
Oh.
This is a commingle plastics cans week for me.
Okay.
All the better.
Okay. Is it?
Yeah.
It's going to get crushed. Does it get crushed here or does it get crushed far away? That's the question.
Could you create something? Could you create something like it's a school project?
How long?
Like an iron encased. But then again, will my Apple tag transmit?
How long does the battery last?
I don't know. I know nothing. I just thought of this. Can't you tell?
Yes, I can.
We're doing this.
All right. TikTok.
We're doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, please go to Smerconish.com and cast a ballot on today's poll question, which asks you, do the advantages of the vetting done by Iowa and New Hampshire outweigh the state's lack of diversity? There's something to be said for letting them do the vetting. Is that more important than the lack of diversity that you'd find in either state? You'll answer the question at Smerconish.com. Thank you. See ya.